Hello and welcome to everybody who has joined in our session today at Money and Me. Today we have a very exciting guest who has come on board with us. He is a very energetic person, much more energetic than what I thought when he signed up, and he didn't want to come on video for the first time, but then a little coercing, a little telling us about you guys, and he agreed to join us for this session today on video in person today. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ronald. He's the CEO of ProBit Exchange Global. Hi, Ronald.
Hi everybody. Thank you, Aru, for the introduction. And yes, it really did take some coercing to get me out of my sweatpants. Bec- I mean, everyone is affected. Everyone's staying home, and yeah, I'm no different.
Right.
And I am the CEO of ProBit Global. ProBit Global, you can find us on probit.com. ProBit Global is a crypto exchange. We've been doing coin-to-coin exchange for 2.5 years right now, or 3 years even, 2.5, 3 years. Yeah, and so far it's been a crazy ride, and I'm happy to come on board today to share this ride together with Abiruk and also the people watching back home. And I hope everyone back home is staying safe, staying healthy, and not staring at the charts all the time. Even though I may be guilty of staring at the charts sometime.
Well, thank you for the wonderful intro, Ronald. Means a lot to us. Hey, before we officially start the interview, here's a fun question for you. So, how different is it running an exchange in pandemic times? So, before COVID-19 and now compared to post COVID-19, how is the scenario different?
So COVID hit Asia a little bit earlier, or rather, Asia found out about COVID a little bit earlier. And I think the time when it really hit me was when I walked into my office. I saw all these people working in the office, and it hit me. I was like, one day we are going to come to the office and probably like no one's going to be in the office because we all have to stay at home, right? Because the lockdown measures have already started and everyone's grappling with it. And this is unprecedented, right? Running a business in such times is really unprecedented. I mean, having a crypto business is already difficult enough because everything is new, everything is fast, you hardly get to sleep. And now during the pandemic, I thought, wow, it's going to be a little bit more mad. So I went to tell my directors. I told my directors like, hey, everyone's expecting this pandemic to last months, but let's take let's take the safer side, which is always the side that Probit takes. Let's look at the more conservative approach. And what if this lasts for years? Right? Are we ready for that? Are we ready for not seeing our colleagues, not seeing our clients, right, for the next few years? So we took the necessary preparations really early on so that our business is less affected. Right? I know some of the crypto exchanges, they've gone full decentralized. They don't come to the office anymore. They even stop renting offices. We still have offices, right? However, I have to say that I hardly see my colleagues face to face anymore, and it changes the dynamic a little bit. But I think compared to the more traditional companies, Probit has been doing very well in these pandemic times.
My next question is centered somewhat around that concept. So, Probit Global keeps coming in the top 30 lists of crypto exchanges worldwide, and that's a very impressive feat. But with cryptocurrencies becoming more popular in the world, with some countries banning them, other countries embracing them, what are the biggest challenges a crypto exchange faces today in order to keep growing?
Hmm. I think that there is no such thing as bad publicity when it comes to crypto appearing on the news every single day, right? When I first started in crypto back in 2014, I think, you can walk down the street and mention Bitcoin to 10 people and maybe one person has vaguely heard of it, right? Now, when you walk down the street, you ask anyone about Bitcoin, they've more or less heard of it, right? Because of the good news that you hear, the bad news that you hear, all kinds of news that you hear, right? So the biggest challenges in crypto, I think, that is a matter of narrative, right? What is the narrative? So far, I think when you've seen the last price volatility for the last few days, like in the last week or so, it's because the narratives are being changed, right? First, you have the narrative pushed by Elon, right? That Bitcoin is eco-unfriendly, and he may have his own um personal incentives to push a narrative like this. I don't know, right? So eco-unfriendly is a very strong narrative against crypto, right? So that's the first thing. And the second thing is the centralization of where crypto is being mined, and a lot of it, centers around the Middle Kingdom, around China. And I I'm not sure if it's political, right? But I think it's to do with economics for sure, because the energy in certain parts of China is really, really cheap, right? So naturally, a lot of mining activity gravitates to where the cost of goods is the cheapest, right? So in this case, you're selling Bitcoins and what is your cost? Your cost is electricity. And just so happen, like a lot of other things in this one part of China, it's really, really cheap to produce Bitcoins. It's I don't think it started off political. I think it started off economical. But again, you have these two narratives, which is the biggest headwinds in the last 1 or 2 weeks against crypto, right? And the greatest challenge I think for crypto as a whole is is shaping the narratives that what normies are thinking about crypto. I mean, normies like non-crypto natives are thinking about crypto, right? So uh, yeah, the narratives are really important. So as a community member of any kind of crypto that you are supporting, right? Maybe you love Bitcoin, you love Ethereum, or any other coins and or tokens out there. We have to be cognizant that we are the ambassadors, right, of crypto. I mean, back even in 2014 or stuff, when I go around talking to people about Bitcoin, right, you are the ambassador. You have to shape the narrative. And this responsibility lies on each and every one of us, not just the CTOs or the CEOs or the builders or the founders of companies and stuff. It lies on everyone. Yeah.
So you mentioned about the battle of eco-friendliness and Bitcoin. So the region you're talking about in China gets a lot of rainfall, and a lot of hydroelectricity is produced in that region, which makes electricity really cheap. So one thing which critics of Elon Musk go on saying is that a lot of Bitcoin mining occurs because of renewable energy sources. So it's not just coal and fossil fuels pumping up the mining industry. So do you think that Bitcoin maybe sometime in the future can completely take a renewable energy approach?
Mm, I like the debate about the renewable energy stuff. Right? I think this is a step definitely in the right direction. However, I want to highlight the other side of things, which is what is the opportunity cost? Right? If you see DeFi, right, and it's running on Ethereum, and one fine day Ethereum goes on proof of stake, for example, right? So the energy input is quite low. I mean, quite low, right? And what is the alternative? If you have one building full of people from a certain bank, right? How much energy are they taking? How much energy are they using, right? And for the people to, go to the offices, they're driving cars that maybe run on fossil fuel. They turn on lights and heaters that are running on fossil fuel. What is the alternative? And we're not looking at the alternative. So um, I think blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies, they play a really small role of what our present world is right now. But if they have the potential to bite away a sizable chunk of a certain industry that is already running on fossil fuels, then I think that's a net positive,
Right.
right? And not enough people are studying this kind of stuff, right? Because we still don't know the full potential of what crypto can do, right? So DeFi looks really cool. DeFi looks like it's going to put a lot of people out of business, maybe in 10 years down the road. And these people that are out of business, they are spending probably less fossil fuels. They're using less fossil fuels. So I think this eco talk is very early in the debate, right? For the eco talk, we have to have this talk for sure. But I think there's a lot of uncertainty onto the metrics that are being used to study this thing. So it's a lot of garbage in, garbage out, right?
Right.
Yeah. So we have to kind of stay grounded to the reality that we don't have the full picture yet.
Right.
Mhm.
So you mentioned about the growth of DeFi. Now, Probit features more than 600 plus altcoins and 1,000 plus different markets. So can you tell us about some of the benefits of investing in crypto tokens or DeFi tokens?
Yes. We do have, I think the number is a little bit higher now. Maybe we have 700 plus altcoins, the coins that are not Bitcoins, right? Um, and we also do have a crazy amount of markets where you can trade using Bitcoin, USDT, Ethereum, and also if you're Korean, you can trade with Korean won. So that's a fiat to crypto exchange. And there's a lot of stuff that goes on our exchange, right? That goes for different segments of the industry. You mentioned DeFi. I think DeFi is really, really interesting because the utility of the tokens that are being produced are very varied. Some of them are for you to vote for stuff, right? So that's governance tokens. Some of them earn you a yield in some way, right? Maybe you can do liquidity provision and then it earns you a yield in the same kind of tokens. Right. So there are a lot of different mm, there are a lot of different utility when it comes down to all these tokens. And when purchasing into a token, you need to ask yourself a few questions, right? The first one is, do you know what you're buying? Right? When you go to a supermarket and you buy baked beans, you know it's baked beans in there. You buy olives, you know it's olives in there. Right? So you have to look under the hood and see what is the point of this token. What's the point of the coin? Right? And I think that sometimes, in this explosion of cryptos that's coming up, there are some cryptos out there that have absolutely no point, right? So those guys I'll be very wary of. The second thing is like, are you ready to invest not just your Bitcoin or your Ethereum to get these altcoins? Are you also ready to invest your time, right, to study, to track what is going on with this project, right? Um, and that's kind of a hobby of mine. I do love to see what founders and builders are building out there. Uh, I mean, whether they have a token or not doesn't really matter to me. I want to see what they're building, what they're adding to the ecosystem. And there are a lot of good projects out there that don't have a token, like MetaMask, right? MetaMask is used by, wow, I think everyone I know in the crypto space, and they don't have a token and they're working perfectly fine, right? So it really depends on why you are getting into the market. I think there are a lot of people who go into the market for speculative purposes. Well, good for them. Then they have their own set of tools, such as looking at charts and looking at forums to see what is catching up. And then there's the other set of people, which I think includes me, who are genuinely interested in what they're building out there. And if you're building something that's really cool, I don't mind supporting it by using your ecosystem, by using your protocol. And how I use your protocol is that I need to get some of the tokens that you want me to interact with, right? There is no right or wrong of which is which. I do think though that in terms of emotional rewarding, it's more emotionally rewarding for me to see cool protocols being founded and built. Yeah.
So ProBit Exchange reportedly has an order matching speed of over 1.5 million orders per second. And you also
Mhm.
have a customizable user interface that supports 41 different languages. That's quite an achievement, I would say. So obviously you are going for a global approach. You want to reach out to a lot of different customers around the world. So can you tell us about which countries a majority of your users come from and how trading differs from one country to another?
Yeah, so let's talk about the order matching speed first. Yeah. um Back 1 week ago, when we had this huge dislocation of price, right? When things were moving really fast, things were very volatile, right? A lot of exchanges went down, right? Um, and some, I mean, they're huge, right? A lot of huge exchanges went down, probably because of user activity and stuff. And ProBit is not small either, right? As you mentioned earlier, we're like top 30. We're not small, and we've got a hell of a lot of coins, right? And it wasn't a market movement where only one or two coins were affected. It affected basically every single coin, right? So you had huge movements everywhere, movements in price, movements in deposits and withdrawal, and so on and so forth. And ProBit, we did not even have a single second of downtime, right? We didn't have a single second of downtime. That's number one. And number two, we didn't boast about it on social media and stuff, because to us, or rather to my marketing department, this is expected. You cannot go around saying, oh, we survived it because we had no downtime. You are expected not to have downtime. There's nothing to be proud of. This is the bare minimum, right? So if you are running a crypto exchange, and like at the time where it's most needed, your users need you the most, you can't log in, you can't sell, you can't buy, you can't deposit and withdraw, then what is the point of it, right? And then you can't go out to social media and start parading that, oh, we were working, we only had 95% uptime. I mean, sorry, we only had 5% downtime during this 24-hour period. I'm like, dude, you can't do this, right? Everyone wants to trade and deposit and withdraw at that time, probably to fix some, I don't know, the health ratio of some open leverage accounts or whatsoever. You can't just close the withdrawals to some place because the gas fees were too high, right? And then you had to pay for them.
Okay,
So that's
Ronald,
the first thing. Yes.
what if a crypto exchange did kind of crash during the big market movement last week? What does that tell you about the exchange itself?
Actually, there were a few. There were a few that crashed.
Mm.
You can see the uptime. And I mean, no crypto exchange chooses to crash, for sure. Right? There's a lot of opportunity cost. There's a lot of bad will. You lose a lot of long-time customers on that day. Uh, it sucks. Um, what I have a beef with, though, is that some of the crypto exchanges close deposit and withdrawals.
On
Right?
purpose.
Why would you do that? On purpose, right? Why would you do that? They did it because probably gas fees were so high that either they had to pump up the withdrawal fee and change the withdrawal, the back end withdrawal to make things go out faster, but incurring a loss,
Mm.
right? Or keep it at the same price, withdrawals all go out into the mempool, nothing moves, everything is stuck, and then these people flow into your customer support channels and they start scolding your mom, right? And it's true, man. You don't know how many times my mom got scolded
Oh my God.
on days like I mean, it comes out of frustration, right? They're trying to save maybe some other account where they're probably going to be liquidated soon, and things are not moving. But this is how it works, right? This is how the blockchain works. Everything goes into the mempool, and then based on how much you advertise your gas transactions to be, of course, the miners are going to take up the higher gas transactions first, the transactions with higher gas first. And so you get this mempool stuck, completely stuck, and everyone's rushing through your customer support channels, right? Creates a lot of problems. So some exchanges, they just decided at that point of time, all right, let's close the deposit and withdrawal. You close the withdrawals, right? People can't withdraw. They are pissed, but they don't go to customer support because they can't do it, right? They know they so it's really about how much shit you want to deal with at the end of the day, right? And some exchanges chose to be non-user friendly, uh, and I don't agree with that approach, because at the end of the day, it's easier for them. It's a lot of people work in exchanges. It's just a job for them, so they're like, all right, it saves us work if we just close the withdrawals for like 2 hours. But those 2 hours are the most important 2 hours.
Right.
So I don't agree with that. And then moving on with the languages, you were talking about how ProBit has 41 different languages. I think this goes very well with my ethos of crypto, is that number one, I believe that crypto should be accessible. And crypto is accessible to me and maybe and probably to you as well, and to the viewers back home, because they have a good command of English. Right? And a lot of crypto that's going on, a lot of that's going on in crypto right now is in English. Right?
Right.
A new protocol comes out and the documentation is in English. Or centralized exchanges, when they set up, their announcements are usually first in English and then translated into a few other languages. But I was thinking, like, cool, how about the long tail? How about all the other populations centers where they don't speak English as their first language, right? Do they not matter? Right? And I think that if you take a closer look at the languages that we support, the 41 languages, we have languages of countries where they most need a steady, sturdy banking system, right? Where they most need a place where they can safely store value, right? Early on, that I want to make sure that we serve as many people as possible, and language a greater part of a year, translating everything on our website. Right, our announcements come out in, I think, 8 or 10 languages, so that people all around the world can use our services. 41 languages, high end of all crypto exchanges as well, right? And that's kind of our in terms of getting the long tail. But really, the strategy is second. The first was because we wanted crypto to be accessible to all, right? And I think sometimes you go on social media and we get some slag, we get some flack for being a centralized exchange. We're not decentralized, blah blah blah. True, we are not. But at the same time, we are doing stuff that other founders and protocols are not doing. Right? We are trying to make crypto accessible, right? Just like everyone else in the crypto space trying to make the ecosystem a bit stronger, a bit better, a bit well known. ProBit are also trying to connect people from all around the world into crypto now.
Right. It's funny how across the globe, one country has a completely different approach to cryptos, and here you have South Korea. So what I'm talking about here is Venezuela, where governments have semi-adopted Bitcoin as a currency, and they allow the citizens to purchase and sell goods and services through BTC. So this has been done to beat the hyperinflation in Venezuela. Now, do you think countries can actually leverage and benefit from approving BTC as an alternative currency in national markets?
Short answer is yes. However, about Venezuela, I think that the context is quite important. I believe that Venezuela is under the sanctions of the United States and all the United States friends. It means that for Venezuela, it's very difficult for them to get hard currency. Hard currency meaning like US dollar, gold, euro, maybe, right? Hard currency. They issue their dollar. I think the peso, maybe I can't remember, peso or bolivar or something. They issue their own currency.
Yeah.
Come again?
Bolivar, yeah.
Yeah. Bolivar, yes. So they issue the bolivar, and the bolivar's value has to be pegged to something, right? Has to be backed by something. Previously, I think it was backed by the government's word, right? But as things started to hit the fan, the demand for hard currency increases in that country. However, they have problems accessing the hard currency. So US dollar is still definitely the number one preferred hard currency for people in countries where economy has gone to shit. Right? US dollar is definitely number one. And it's because they can't get access to US dollar that this country decide, all right, look, let's deal with Bitcoin then. It's actually more troublesome. Right? Bitcoin is more troublesome than US dollar. Transaction rates are high. It's hard to prove that you have it. You need to plug it into a computer. Not plug it in, but you know what I mean. Like it's harder than cash. You just take it out from your pocket. You're like, hey, here's the dollars. So there is actually a long way to go before cryptocurrency, right, can take the place of hard currencies or reserve currencies for that matter. Right? There's actually a long, long way to go. Your question also says that citizens are purchasing and selling goods in Bitcoin. It's not very comfortable to buy and sell in Bitcoin. I mean, the transaction fee is more than my coffee. Yeah, not yet. But do I think that countries can benefit from having Bitcoin as a reserve currency or hard currency? I don't know.
It's too early, perhaps. To say that.
It's too early, and also like there is a conflict of interest because the governments don't want to hand off this kind of power, to this international currency where they have no power over. And like it's not that Bitcoin is perfectly decentralized. Everyone's got $1,000 worth of it. We've got mega whales.
Yeah.
So what? If you allow Bitcoin to be a national currency and stuff, like what if these mega whales come into your country and buy a state? Right, how many states does India have? 31?
Yeah, roughly around the same.
Right. 20, so can you 20 something? Can you imagine if Uttar Pradesh was bought over by a mega whale? all the government infrastructure. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. My point is that this is the narrative that the governments are thinking of. Like, how can we, even using the US dollar has its problems.
Right.
Right. Much less a currency that's held by way less people, right, and concentrated by way more people.
No, but this is a very,
the US dollar is.
But this is a very good point you've raised because it's actually concerning. The concept of whales was perhaps not something which was thought about when Bitcoin's white paper came out, that one person could actually hold huge reserves of it. So what is your notion about this? Why do you think whales can actually end up doing something so drastic?
I think they already can. Right? I think they already can. If you look at some of the whales portfolios, right? Because it's on the blockchain, everyone can see it.
Right.
On the day of the huge market volatility 1 week ago, we had one of the whales lose $1 billion worth of crypto, $1 billion worth of portfolio loss, right? Just on that one account alone.
Right.
How many countries in this world would sacrifice a lot to have $1 billion of hard currency? Right. I mean, small countries, wow, $1 billion can make a huge difference.
Right.
Right. $1 billion is how many companies, multinational companies that we know, right, that have worldwide global names and don't make $1 billion in 10 years. Right. The scale of power and money that they have is already staggering. Right. And I think this is true for the real world as well, not just the crypto world. It's just that on the crypto world, it's so much more visible because everything's on chain.
Right. Right.
This is a discussion we sooner or later have to have. Is that at what point? I mean, you can't just take it away from them. It doesn't work like that, right? But at what point does the concentration of power and wealth in the crypto world becomes a detriment to the crypto world?
Because like I said, it's no longer decentralized, because if there are people who own vast majorities of it, obviously they can control the market. Now, let's say a whale sells off their holdings, that is going to plunge the market down. We can't do anything about it.
Yeah. And you can already see that, if we look at the narratives of the previous market volatility of the last week, yes, retail has been really overextended with leverage. You can see this with the open interest, right? They've been playing with leverage for far too long. But it doesn't explain the spark, right? The leverage factor only explains the fuel of the crash, right? It fuels the crash because it's a short squeeze. People get liquidated, it just continues and continues, right? It fuels the crash, right? But what was the spark, right? How many people in the world can move the market by 2%, right? In the crypto market? Well, so some people said the spark came from Elon, right? With his tweets.
Yep.
That may be true. That may be true. I, however, think that the spark, right, came with a combination with tweets, China news, eco news, and opportunistic whale selling, right? Opportunistic whale selling. With all this put together and pushing the market down, you start to have this flame of liquidation going on, and then it starts to take a toll. I know traders out there that intentionally try to liquidate other people, because when you liquidate, it helps in your advance, right? You're selling short, huge sell short. You move the market by a little bit, hoping that the liquidation cycle starts, right? It starts to liquidate more and more people, and then you have this cascading effect of shorts, which only adds to the short seller's position, right? And these guys, they didn't get to $1 billion. They didn't join the 3 comma club by being nice, right? Yeah, they didn't. Right? They got into the 3 commas club by being ruthless, right? So is this good for the crypto ecosystem, where the only thing that Bloomberg and Financial Times write about is a 50% crash in the market because of some opportunistic selling? I don't know if this is good. But again, there are other narratives in play, and we can't just blame one single narrative for causing, this kind of publicity.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, a lot of new exciting, we touched base upon it a while back in the session. A lot of DeFi projects are coming up. You have ICOs, you have different blockchain implementation, various energies across industries. How much more do you think crypto can transform the world?
I think it's important to, once in a while in the crypto community, to just close the laptop and read a book, or close the laptop and go outside, breathe some fresh air, stop thinking of crypto and stop thinking of how it's going to transform the world, right? It's very hard to imagine. It's very hard to imagine. I wasn't really that old at the time, but when the internet first came about, would we imagine that the internet would be able to store value, which is what Bitcoin does now, right? Store value, transfer value on the internet. We used to use computers and databases to store the records of value, never to store value.
Right.
And I think that this is the strongest narrative that is helping crypto, in that crypto, for the first time ever, allows computers to store value for value's sake. Right. And this is what I usually tell my uncles and my aunties whenever they ask me what crypto is all about. I say the computers can now store value for you, right? I mean, they don't have to understand the blockchain whatsoever. Just tell them computer, right? And previously, they only store the records of value. So that's the first thing that is really transforming transforming the world as we speak today, right? The blockchain itself is not revolutionary, in the sense that we have had blockchains before, even in the olden times, right? There used to be this island, you can Google it, right? That their currencies are stones, huge rocks on the island. And everyone's just like, this rock is owned by me, and that rock is owned by Abiruk, right? And what happens is that every villager on this island knows who owns which rock.
Right.
And so every villager is basically a node, right? If someone passes away, everyone else still knows which rock is owned by who.
Right.
And that's really the most rudimentary sense of a blockchain. So the idea of a blockchain is not new. We have been using it before. It's just that now it's computerized, right? And now it's on a global scale. Right? And we've got these fancy tricks to make sure that you can't screw with it, right? Algorithmically, we've done some stuff, right?
Right.
Yeah. So what is revolutionary, I think, for crypto is that for the first time ever, the computers can store value. Right? And then if you take this narrative or if you take this superpower and apply it, 10 years down the road, what can we possibly create with that? Right? And we've been starting to see it. We see, custodians on the blockchain. We see exchanges on the blockchain. And custodian, the idea of custody is that you have to custody something that has money, that has value.
Right.
Right. The idea of exchange is that you have to exchange something that's of value. Right. If you look at like the saving banks like Aave, Liquidity and stuff, right, you can only put something of value in there. You can't put garbage in there. Right. It's all about value. How do you, and if you continue with this narrative, right, I think you will come up with the next big idea.
Right.
Right. So where I see ProBit and the crypto space in 5 years is honestly, I'm not smart enough. I'm not smart enough to be able to forecast or to project in the future, what the collective mind of all the people in crypto will be able to do in 5 years. Right? If you asked me 5 years ago when I first joined the industry, 7 years ago when I first joined the industry, do I think that something such as DeFi in its current form would exist, with on-chain leverage and all that? I mean, I would be able to imagine it, but to look at it today, wow, right? It's insane.
It is.
So I'm super optimistic. I'm super optimistic of how crypto would be able to transform the way we interact with our computers in the future, right? Yeah.
Well, Ronald, thank you so much for this interview. It was really fun. I'll be honest with you, I didn't expect it to be this fun. You're really knowledgeable guy, man.
No, man. Like I told you, I'm not smart enough to see 5 years in the future.
Right. No, but the important thing I believe personally is to always keep rooted to our present, because unless we are focused on our present and we do the things that are required, future won't be good, right? So I really, really appreciate the views you shared here. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's why ProBit has taken the form that it is right now. I'm really proud of the fact that we are trying to make crypto accessible. I'm really proud of the fact that we have Azerbaijani as a language on an exchange.
Right.
Because I don't think any other exchange even cares about Azerbaijan, right? But I mean, no offense, I love you guys there, but you know what I mean. You're a small country, you have your own language. It's difficult to be accessible.
Right.
That's my point, right?
But this is definitely a highlight of ProBit. I mean, I've gone through a lot of different exchanges, but haven't seen one which offers so many languages. So kudos to you guys. I think you're really making a difference out there.
Yeah, thank you, and that means a lot for coming from you, because you've definitely talked to a lot of crypto people.
I have.
And yeah, I think we're all just trying to make a small difference in this world, a small, long-lasting difference in this world. And ProBit is trying.
And ProBit definitely will go much higher in the lists, I'm pretty sure, because you guys have a great vision out there. So thank you, Ronald, once again for coming on the show. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a nice day.